Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. Star Trek Discovery, Season 1, Episode 3, Context is for Kings. And here I am. I'll also be talking about the episode of Orville, Season 1, Episode 4, If the Stars Should Appear. I just realized I put the wrong title for this video, so I'm having to copy and paste and change things around, but it happens. Welcome, everybody. I'm here to talk about some more Star Trek. It's about fucking time. I missed one of the episodes before. I missed talking specifically about Episode 2, but I think Episode 2 and 1 kind of went together pretty contextually. Sorry, I'm like multitasking, and like many people in this world, I cannot walk and chew gum at the same time, but welcome everybody to talk about this episode of Discovery. Mainly we're going to be talking about Discovery, but I am going to mention, as I said, Orville as well. I am alone today, but I'm never alone when I have with me the live motherfucking chat. We got Mike and Rich here so far. It says, I love PSP. I never saw the first two episodes. Has Yoda appeared yet? Not really. No Yoda quite yet on Star Trek Discovery. Maybe eventually the Jar Jar Binks will let him go. But no, wrong fucking show, wrong fucking situation. I am here today to talk about the third episode of Star Trek Discovery. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the people that checked out the first review that I did of Discovery and shared a lot of thoughts about it. I definitely think people are have very strong opinions about Star Trek Discovery, for good and for bad. And there's a lot of comparisons with Orville that are causing people to either have to be, oh, I'm liking the Orville or I'm liking Star Trek Discovery. But I don't think life is quite that simple. I think both shows are great, and spoiler alert for this review, I'm not going to be bashing one show or the other. I am going to be talking positively about both shows because I fucking like both shows, and there's no problem with that. I just want to start things off by seeing a lot of the Star Trek community of people that are into Star Trek being kind of split by Discovery and Orville. They feel like they have to pick one. Why are you so close-minded of a person that you need to pick, oh, I'm either Team Orville or I'm Team Discovery? Why can't you like parts of both shows? Because I do. Just get the fuck on board. It's true, some elements of each show are better than worse, but that doesn't mean you have to disparage and say, well, this show isn't Gene's vision. This show shits on Sirius Trek. This show, fuck you. Why can't you just have the response, I don't like this shit, I don't want to watch it? Why do you have to make sure everybody believes what you believe too? It's just really funny to me, some of the lengths that they will go to hate on one of these two shows if they were on the other side of it. And maybe I'm riding the fence on this one, and some things you do need to make a stand. I fucking hate mimes. I don't give a fuck. No, I don't really hate mimes. But I'm saying in certain things in life, you need to make a choice. You need to make, am I over here, or am I over there? Whose kickball team am I on? But in Star Trek, in television, there's just so many fucking hours in every day for entertainment. There's no need to do that. And if you're being that way and you're closing yourself off, and you're saying, oh, I can only watch this show, I can only watch that show, and not even giving the other show a shot, you're costing yourself a lot of hopeful enjoyment periods. And that goes with Star Trek or anything else, when it's like, oh, fuck, I only like Marvel, fuck DC, I only like this. Like, fuck you. I only like one video game company, I don't like both. Fuck anything that this company does. Screw you, because you're costing yourself potential enjoyment by being pig-headed and stupid. I know, usually I start off so positive, but I'm like, fuck you, fuck everybody, I'm sick of this bullshit, I'm just so sick of it. I'm sick of the way that people are going, if you don't like it, just say, I don't like it. Stop rationalizing that it's not Gene's vision, or all of this shit, because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you're just you're like, I'm falling, I need to hold on to something, fuck! Not Gene's vision. Oh my gosh! Oh shit, this isn't really Star Trek. Orville sucks too! Like, no. Fuck both of you. The Klingon design's terrible. Terrible, Mike. It look, and I know you're not the orcs or the Klingons. I know you haven't really watched the show, but the Klingons look awful. Tell me it looks awful. Don't say the whole show is shit because the Klingons look awful. It's not. Or it breaks canon or breaks technology canon. Did you think that maybe they know that and everything that they're working on in this episode might not come to fruition because we know that shit doesn't happen in the future? That doesn't mean there weren't experiments before the time things were invented. We don't know what happens in every single time period throughout all of Star Trek. Sorry for the rant at the beginning here of this fucking bullshit. And yes, CBS All Access sucks testicle tit that I needed to fucking pay $6 or I need to spend time pirating this show to watch it. Does that suck? Yes. Have we bitched about that at length on this channel? Fuck yeah. Will I mention it again? Probably. But does that affect how good or bad the show is? No. It has no benefit either way to judging this show. I can judge CBS, and I judge you motherfucking guilty, and I want to take CBS and shove my fucking fist up their ass for doing this, for taking a good show and not having enough faith in it, or for whatever reason to show this to as many people as possible. But I still have faith that stuff like that might change eventually. But ultimately, if you're not enjoying Discovery, that's fine. But after episode 3, fuck yeah, man, I'm enjoying it. And then I'm going to go over to Orville for a second here, too, because I'm not just going to talk about one then the other here, because it's all the fucking... We're lucky that we're in the sci-fi universe world right now, that for so long we were ousted, and we got no sci-fi. All you saw on television were fucking cop dramas or superhero shows. Finally, sci-fi's back, and people want to say, oh, we can only have one of them. Nah. Fuck you, shut up. Don't fucking overjudge this show episode by episode. And I know I'm doing reviews episode by episode. Oh, this episode was bad, never watching it again. This episode was good, never watching it again. Like on either of those shows, especially with Orville, where it's episodic, like eat a dick. Eat a giant dick filled with fucking poison, okay? Because give me a break. Like, you want to make it so I can't enjoy both shows. Fuck you. No, I'm having a good time. But with Orville, I think each episode is so individual amongst itself that it's hard to judge it on any individual episode, because each individual episode will be a completely different thing. And with Discovery, I feel like this was really our first episode. Everything else was sort of a prologue to the events that are actually going to happen in the series Discovery. This was essentially, I'm not going to say the pilot, but the first real episode of Discovery we got, where we met all of our pieces. And I think, love the Captain, love Discovery as a ship. I love the way it looks. I feel like they spent way more attention designing Discovery than they did the Shinzu over there. And that's why the Shinzu looked kind of limited in the same way in Emissary, the way we see the beginning of the bridge that Sisko's on is never as detailed as something we get in other Next Generation or other Deep Space Nine stuff. Because in that moment, it was just basically used for a prologue. So personally, I think this felt to me like the first real episode of Discovery. People are in all the right places, and I thought this was a really great episode that filled me with that sense of Star Trek wonder. And I had feared a lot about Star Trek Discovery. A couple people suggested this in the comment section and in the chat about, is Discovery just going to be a war show? Are they going to have time to take some time and explore stuff from a Star Trek standpoint, from discovery, actual discovering things, learning about new sciences, whatever, going through all of that, the hodgepodge that is Star Trek. And I think so much of this episode was focused on that, and not so much even just in passing about the Klingon War. There were Klingons there in this episode. I think it's hard to tell. They don't look like Klingons. But there was one Klingon in a part, and we saw a bunch of dead Klingons. There was a section of this episode that felt kind of cloyingly alien-like at times. It wasn't my favorite section of the episode. Especially, we saw way too much of the creature. Like, it could have been done a little bit better. I think it was a little bit too much visually seeing the big pile of CG that was marching down the street. But I hated Sasha on The Walking Dead. I think she's doing so well on this show. I said it before, Stephanie, who I watched this show with, it's like, yeah, I'm not feeling her. And I know a lot of people might not be feeling her, but I really am. I think she plays this character, this half Vulcan, I know it's not a half Vulcan, this human raised by Vulcan, so she's constantly trying to suppress her emotions. Perfectly. In fact, I don't think she could play any other character, because I think the actress naturally plays this sort of shit. It's what I didn't like about her as Sasha. This, I'm a Vulcan. This Vulcanness to her. In fact, I mentioned this before. I think I referred to her several times throughout the run of The Walking Dead as she acts like a Vulcan sometimes, and then just has these explosions. So I appreciate that casting. The guy who plays the captain, Jason Isaacs, I think he's going to be really awesome in that role. And the little bit that we saw of him in episode 1, really, I see why he wasn't the main star, and I see like a whole level of interesting shit to be pulled away with the captain. The security officer, and I have his name here, Kuru or whatever his name is, the guy who now in this episode became the first officer. Him and Michael's relationship is really well done too, and it gets explored exceptionally well, even in brief moments in this episode, and I can see how far it's going to go. Then to make this show feel a little bit more real, or feel a little bit more focused and not just kind of like a war situation, we get her roommate that's getting introduced as a character, we get the dick engineer and all that stuff. So we're sort of being set up with all the different places and all the different members of the crew. So I like where we're going with this series, and I like all the moments that we got in it, and it feels like it takes itself serious, and it feels like it has a good understanding of what Star Trek is in essence. And I know some people will argue with me on that one. They'll say, oh, Star Trek people should never argue in Star Trek. And you're right. Bones and Spock never argued. Ever. Ever. If you mean people shouldn't argue, you mean the Gene fucking Next Generation perspective where let's have a love boat on space when he was fucking losing his mind. Is that the Gene you're talking about? Do you want to just grab onto anything Gene says like he's fucking L. Ron Hubbard or something and go, well, Gene said this, Gene said that? Form your fucking religion around Gene, okay? It's about TV, and sometimes Gene didn't make all the best decisions, and some other people did. The greatness of the Next Generation era was more about Burnham and fucking Ira Stephen Bear and all of those people that sort of took what Gene was doing and expanded on it to a certain point and then eventually killed it because they tried to be too greedy with it. But I mean, all this shit, to me, he wasn't like that in original series. And if we go even by the Gene-ness of it, TOS and Enterprise had a lot of crew arguing stuff because it was before they were quite to the evolved level that they became, if we even want to go down that route. But no, I believe better in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine philosophy, where humans are a little, like, pig-headed, and they're a little focused on the bullshit and don't necessarily deal with the problems that they have. And sometimes it boils over and people have different perspectives. And I feel like you see that a lot more in Deep Space Nine. It feels more real, like a real fucking world. I feel like my biggest problem with Voyager is you didn't see that enough, especially when you have the start of that series be a war on the crew with the Maquis and the Federation. Instead, okay, everybody, let's all get along, high fives and butt slaps. Let's all listen to Janeway. Hee hee. Like, no. At least that's not what I love about Trek. I loved about Bones and Scott and Bones and Spock, or Scotty even arguing with Kirk sometimes, or whatever, them having problems. The three-way, the Triforce having legitimate issues with each other. Anyways, let's jump in this. Sucks I can't stream Orville. Maybe eventually, Omen. I just canceled my cable. YouTube and Netflix is all I'm using. I don't even pay for Netflix. Great to see you. Testicular tit is being kind. I wasn't expecting this until tonight. Sorry, Omen. I end up doing things all over the place. I can't help myself. It's whenever I feel like doing it. I'm like, I gotta get out here today. I have too much to say. Darth Jar Jar. Check Goss stream is Omen. I think of the mid-90s, there was a ton of sci-fi shows around the same time. There was Battlestar. Like, it was the repeat, and then Babylon 5 and all that sort of shit too. It was because of how successful Star Trek Next Generation was. You got so many offshoot shows that said, oh my god, this show is so fucking successful. People like this. Let's keep making shows and keep making shows. And that eventually did transition into the superhero genre and stuff like that too. You could say Buffy was the first introduction in Smallville and shows like that, and then eventually Heroes, which led into all the Marvel shows and stuff like that, and other DC shows on CW. Star Trek Discovery vastly improved. Shatner's tweet with the Daily Mail story quoting Jason Isaacs seems very true. I can't see how this isn't a hard reboot tossing out 50 years of Star Trek lore. I don't know if it's deleted all of the lore. That being, I think it's set in the, like, for my interest, please, I'd love to hear what that tweet said that Shatner put out. I don't mind some of the retreads and some of the recanoning of some of the science, considering how far we as humans in 21st century world right now have progressed to the point, even compared to like the 90s when Next Generation came out or something like that, or even earlier than that when the films came out. So some of that tech that seemed cutting edge at the time right now, if they tried to repeat that and even dial that back a little bit, it wouldn't seem like sci-fi. It would seem dated. So to me, I don't mind that, and that isn't a break in canon for me. That's just a break in some of the sci-fi language. It doesn't break what it is about Star Trek. And I know some of the stuff about warp travel being discovered, some of the shit that comes later, especially in Voyager or Enterprise, where we have specific dates for things. I understand people having a problem with that, but for me, for whatever it's worth, and I am someone that's a little ironclad to canon at times about certain things, there's only a couple moments where it's bothered me, and there are definitely a few where I've been like, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. Site-to-site transfers. They talk about site-to-site transfers on this past episode, where I'm just like, what? Site-to-site transfers were a big deal on Next Generation and Voyager. You can't just bring site-to-site transfers. But the holograms and shit, that stuff doesn't bother me as much. Like the holodeck kind of technology, and seeing that we know where that came from on Next Generation and on a lot of other shows, it doesn't bother me as much that we're seeing that stuff ahead of time. Just because modern technology in our time period has progressed so far that they need to make the science fiction seem better at this point in time in the future. Hero season 1, that was great. Heroes and Phil. Well, hello Phil, hello people, welcome Thomas. Agreed, we can't try to recreate the looks of the older shows. Isaac says it would toss out the legacy of Shatner and Stewart, and then walked back those comments. Weird. That seems like ego by him. I don't know if it's tossing out the legacy. I think maybe he means by that he's so confident about what the show is that he probably sounded slightly egotistical about that. I don't take that on the... I don't want to overjudge what someone tweets when they're excited about a project they're working on. Holy shit, this podcast is the greatest thing of all time. This show is going to blow away every other podcast. I am the best. Subscribe to me now, motherfuckers. Like, when you're involved in a project and you get super excited about it, you're gonna say stupid shit. So, I mean, I get him saying that, and I see probably because they're gonna kind of push the envelope of stuff. But I completely am not being bogged down by some of the problems. And I'm not saying you are either, Joshua. You even said it's vastly improved, and you seem to be generally enjoying it. I'm not gonna shut my brain off to that stuff, but for me, it's nothing compared to the offense that happened in those movies, in those 3 movies. So this seems like it's dialed back a little bit. And I also think it's a billion times better than anything Enterprise ever did. And I know Enterprise recannoned all this bullshit with introduction to the races or something like that, or like so much that happened on Enterprise was stuff that never should have happened, but people are ignoring that point in the argument. Or some of the stuff that happened on Next Generation recannoned some of the stuff that happened on TOS, some of the stuff that happened on Deep Space Nine recannoned some of the stuff that happened on Next Generation and on Voyager and Next Generation. Like, it always happens on Trek shows. They always do this shit. And an egotistical actor saying my show's going to be better than Shatner and Stewart. Fuck those 2 assholes. You know, that doesn't bother me as much, and I'm not going to read too much into that comment. The show is much better. The opening title is fucking bad. I don't mind the opening title, Mathis, but I definitely hear what people are saying. Again, to go to my last point, and I don't know if this is a rational point to make about liking something. It's better than Enterprise. Fucking A. And is it as good as that classic Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Next Generation, Voyager kind of opening, or even the original series? No. But I think I understand what they're doing with this Star Trek's opening. It feels more modern. It feels like a Netflix opening of some sort, like one of their bigger Marvel shows or something like a Westworld opening. I don't mind. I like the theme better than I like the opening. The theme I definitely enjoy. The opening, I see what you're saying. I think I said after episode 1, it looks like a video game I want to play. I was a little yada-yadaing it this time, but that's not something that's going to, like, hurt hurt me too much as long as they're not playing it. It's gonna be a long time. As long as they don't do that, I'm okay. It's so a reboot, though. They should have advertised this 10 years before. They shouldn't have advertised it as 10 years between Kirk and Spock. The one thing that did get me a little bit, twerked my tit a little bit, was the mention that Sarek used to talk to me, used to say lessons to me and his son. You mean Spock? You mean you're talking about Spock? Enterprise was barely Star Trek. I could never buy in. I like Next Generation. Only Star Trek I ever watched, though. I mean, the show is much better. It's so a reboot. They shouldn't have advertised it's 10 years before Kirk and Spock. I don't see it as a reboot. I see it as a continuation, as an earlier. Do you consider Enterprise a reboot? I guess that's my question for you, for referential purposes. Joshua, just out of curiosity. I'm not saying, Joshua, you're fucking... No, I mean, I can see how it can be viewed as a reboot, but I don't see it as in the same way that the movies were, and kind of like a redesign with new characters playing the old roles and stuff. I mean, I think this is a modern day imagining in the same universe. I think it's a reboot in the sense that even though this was in the future, not the past, and it's a shitty example of it because it's a shitty movie, would be like Superman Returns, that was set in the same universe as the Superman movies, but was way in advance. I think this is set in the prime universe of the Star Trek we know, but it's set 10 years before and with 20 years further television technology, so it comes off in a weird way. But I definitely see what you're saying. Ugh, Sarek, it would have been better just to make it a random Vulcan instead. I agree. It sucks because Enterprise started showing promise. It sucks because Enterprise started showing promise in the third season. I agree. The Xindi arc, and then like when Brent Spiner showed up and all that stuff at the end, I definitely enjoyed Enterprise at that point. I still couldn't completely get on board because I never liked the cast. I'll be honest, I didn't feel the actor that played Trip. I love Scott Bakula. I hated him in this role. T'Pol was good. I liked T'Pol. And other than that, and I liked Phlox. I liked T'Pol and Phlox. But other than that in the series, I didn't really like any of the other cast members, and I felt like they had no chemistry, and I feel like everything was so fucking flat on that show that even when the storylines got better, the characters couldn't carry the stories for me. It was all about the guest characters that they had on that made it more interesting. That was my problem with Enterprise. And in comparison to Discovery, where I like every main character I've met so far, and I'm very much interested in where they go and where their stories go. Phil, you saw Westworld, right? What did you think of the saturation of Alice in Wonderland references in the media lately? That was one of my least favorite parts of the episode, when I feel like it was unnecessary ham-fisting the story of Alice in Wonderland in its position where it didn't necessarily belong. And the fact that she was kind of whispering the Alice in Wonderland theme as she was going on and then passing the book along, I feel like was a little bit too much. I didn't enjoy that part. That was one of my few parts of the episode I did not like. And Scout, hey Scout, what's going on? The last 2 seasons of Enterprise were quite good. The main characters were just bland or annoying. Exactly, Echo, and that's how I feel about it too. Even when Enterprise got good, the characters were still flat and nothing to me. Besides T'Pol and because she was fucking hot, and Phlox. I thought Phlox was an interesting doctor because he was mad scientisty. But I guess Scout said it in a better way than I can ever say it. They have to make it look techy, otherwise people wouldn't like it. They need to... I don't mind the increasing of the tech. What I do mind is the warp travel shit, jumping from place to place really quickly. Isn't there a Next Generation episode where people go in these, like, quick tunnels to pop through place to place? It seems a little extra, or they're using these... I've heard people say that they're metachlorians. They're not metachlorians! These little fucking things that... Or maybe they did... Whatever, these little things to travel at fast distances. What I hope is the outcome of all of this is that they all end up dying because of, similar to the way the last ship did, or this mission fails horribly and somehow sets them back. There's ways, similar to the way they did the Klingon look thing, that you can like it or not like it, but they canoned it in a sense, or re-explained it to a way that old technology would make more sense now, in the sense of the genetic disease that got introduced into the Klingon race. And I think one of the few things Enterprise did well was, I enjoyed what they did with the Klingon situation there, of explaining what happened. I'm glad that they didn't just leave it as Worf in the Deep Space Nine episode saying, this is something we don't talk about. I like how they explored that on Enterprise. And it doesn't bother me that they rethought out the Klingon situation there to try to explain the lack of technological advances in the moment. That doesn't bother me as much as some. And I'm not going to tell you not to let it bother you either if it's stopping your enjoyment of this show. And I'm not saying you, and again, I'm not talking to you, Joshua. I'm saying, like, the people out there that it's stopping their enjoyment of the show, if they can't wrap their brain around it, please don't watch it. It's that fucking simple. It's a hard show to watch. CBS isn't making it easy on us, okay? So if you're one of those people that you're going out of your way to watch Discovery, you're pirating it, you've downloaded, you've ordered CBS All Access, and you're watching it now or something like that, or you're finding the episode somehow, and you're watching it simply just to say this show is fucking stupid and everyone who likes it's stupid. Like, have fun with that, but I don't care. Like, screw, like, go. You're not making a good argument. Josh was making some good arguments right here about, wait, I like the show, but this. And I agree with this, and this. Some of the things bother me more than others. I'm sorry, I'm not mean to be picking on you, Josh. But I think you're making some good points that I can definitely get behind and I think about during the episode. I was saying to Stephanie. But I'm going to mention the Gotham thing here again. And people are like, Gotham sucks, it's not Batman. Okay, it's not Batman. But it's a show. It's a show that takes elements of those universes and brings them together. Sometimes I'm entertained by it. Sometimes I'm not. But when I start going, Batman wouldn't do that. That guy wouldn't do that with Batman. That's my wrong reason for enjoying it or not. Am I enjoying it because the acting is stupid? Because the actress who plays Barbara's way over the top and it fucking sucks and Fish Mooney sucks? Or am I hating it because Batman would never do that? Even though I'm liking this, even though this is somewhat entertaining, this doesn't make sense to Batman. And I'm not going to let something like that interfere with my enjoyment of a show. I'm going to try to, me being the person I am, I guess I'm going to fansplain inside my mind. I'm going to create synaptic overlays, as Data would say, to connect the meanings of these things. I'm going to be like, okay, this technology exists because there's a big fucking accident that happens later that the Discovery tries to further this technology, but ends up the peak of this season is the Klingons destroy it or something like that and destroy all the things that Discovery's been working on. The hologram technology is an early offshoot of what eventually gets perfected later by other alien races. And the reason why we don't see it exactly on TOS is because fuck you. TOS was it was made in a period of time where hologram technology didn't exist in our situation right now, so they can't just ignore it. So put it there. I don't mind it. Anyways, let's go. Enterprise was a misstep canon-wise. At least they introduced the Klingons' apparent virus thing. I'm funny. You guys are behind me or ahead of me or something, like behind me from what I'm saying live, and I love when I see what I'm about to say coming up because yeah, exactly. Enterprise, T'Pol. They didn't have shields in Enterprise for quite some time. They had a druggy-addled girlfriend in high school. I had a druggy-addled girlfriend in high school, so I identified with T'Pol, the attic arc. She was a babe. I was addicted to T'Pol. I'm sorry, I'm having to say her name fast. T'Pol for many different reasons. I'm really liking this new Trek. I'm on board with the reboot now. Hopefully they'll introduce male characters who aren't cowards, villainous, or possibly gay. Scout says, I'd rather they don't try to tie it into too many other characters from Trek. I think, and I'm not sure if the captain's evil. Just to go on the captain, I actually really like I like every single character we've met except for douchey engineer. And I think he's just being douchey so we can get his just desserts. And I've hated him in other things I've seen as well. He's what else was that actor in that? Was it Old School or something he was in? Did he play like the dick in Old School or some shit? I'm blanking on, but he plays some dick character in some movie. But I definitely like the science officer now, first officer. I'm blanking on his name. I have it written down in here somewhere. I like Michael, and I like how they did and I absolutely fucking love how they did the whole Michael's a boy's name. I've never met a girl named Michael. I like how they actually said that. So now let's get into fucking man. Stop running slow. Let's get into a little bit of a recap of this episode. Sorry, my computer's running really slow right now. The episode picks up about 6 months after the premiere. Michael Burnham is on a prisoner ship heading to a mining colony. Her reputation precedes her with some of the other prisoners. They get a little back and forth vibe going on there. There's a proximity alert as small organisms attach to the ship and start draining it of all of its power. The pilots go outside to deal with the ship's problem, but pretty soon after that, it's like, oh no, you're fucking dead. Then we see finally the Star Trek Discovery shows up and comes up and takes the vessel into the landing bay. One of the prisoners notes that the ship is pristine, indicating that it was just built, so it's a state of the art. Then we meet Commander Landry of the Discovery, who kind of brings us into the situation and introduces us to the ship. And we get set up in this situation. Sorry, my computer's being a cocksucking dick right now and not allowing me to scroll through my notes. So it appears we get the transport. One of the prisoners notes that the ship's in pristine condition. Another prisoner notes the large number of silver science officer suits, indicating that this is a science vessel. Oh my fucking God. Sorry. I'm being really pissed off because it's not allowing me to scroll down. So I'm like, when you're working on a computer, my computer tech here isn't working. When you scroll down, it's scrolling down like all fragmented and shit. So it makes it like impossible to read what you're trying to do, because every time I scroll, it takes like 20 minutes to do it. I know, too much fucking information about like how my computer doesn't work, but ultimately through this episode, I was going to do a scene by scene recap of what happens, but I guess I'm not going to do that right now. So let me see if I can at all fix this shit. Let me see if I can fix it. Can you fix it, Phil? Do you have the technology? No, I don't. I don't have that kind of power. So ultimately, Burnham joins the Discovery. I'm trying to remember what happens here. Burnham joins this Discovery fleet joins Discovery, and she's just like, what the fuck's going on in this ship? Right away, they're basically like, something's going on she knows something is going on in the ship, and she can't quite put her finger on it. No one will tell her what's going on. I always ask Broke for help. I'm on board with the new, it was bizarre. I was asked Broke for help. You would think she would have tried to radio or maybe waited momentarily. You would think, okay, so one of the prisoners notes that, another prisoner notes a large number of science officers. The prisoners are taken to a mess hall where we finally see Saru sitting there in the captain's chair. She's brought to the ready room of the captain, who meets her. Oh, fuck, dude. Burnham suggests that she's not on Discovery by chance. There's a brawl on the mess hall. Landry puts a stop to the brawl and tells Burnham that the captain wants to see her. Burnham's brought to the bridge, where she finds Saru sitting in the captain's chair. She's brought to the ready room of Captain Gabriel, and he explains to her that he had an eye injury that makes him sensitive to light. Burnham suspects that she's not on Discovery by chance, and he suggests that the universe hates waste. He asks Burnham for his help with an engineering project that they have ongoing on the ship. Burnham refuses, but he insists, saying there's no free rides on the ship, and if you're going to stay here, you have to do what I say. I love how we got the red shirt. I saw the mission when we had the red-haired girl on the mission. I kept saying to Stephanie that I kind of hope that they kill her, because even though I like the character in general, that they kill her because to mess with the red shirt thing, to have just a red-haired person die instead of just a red shirt. Damn it, Phil. I'm a Trekkie, not a techie. Your fucking stupid computer problems. So eventually Landry comes back and brings Burnham to her quarters, which she finds pretty bare. And then Cadet Sylvia Tilly enters and finds her new roommate laying on her bed. They swap beds, and they swap some stories because she has a snoring problem. And Burnham tells Tilly that her name is Michael. They joke that they don't know any other Michaels besides Michael Burnham, and she becomes frightened when she realizes who she really is. Now, a black alert goes off in Discovery, which we've never really seen before. We see liquid floating in the air, and she can't tell Tilly can't tell Burnham what any of this shit means. Oh, thank you. About the mess hall scene. I felt like the editing is very questionable in this show because the quick cuts make it not flow quite as well. They take her to the mess hall to eat, she gets into a fight, and suddenly there's a woman abruptly like, oh, the captain wants to see you. I definitely hear what you're saying about the quick edits. It's a definite style. At times it bothers me. It doesn't bother me so much in a lot of moments in the episode, but I definitely see what you're saying when we get into any action stuff. It does that kind of quick cut style of action. I think when people say it has a similarity to the JJ movies, it's in its presentation, not necessarily in its story and its acting performances. I think things like that visually, some of the visual cues that they definitely take from the JJ movies in that kind of quick cutty sort of shit that's going on. I think they're doing it to give us a sense of quickness and a sense that everything is sort of up to date, but I feel like that's one of the elements I agree that felt not quite Trekky at times when we get into the alien section and the alien chasing them and the away team stuff. That's when I got a little... That's when the show goes down from 10 side buttholes for me to 7 or 8. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I definitely agree with you on that point, Joshua. I feel like if they took a little bit more time in some of the editing choices, it would make the show feel a little bit more... Even if it looked exactly the same way, if it edited a little bit slower the way that Next Generation of Deep Space Nine did, it would have a little bit more of a feel that you could get your footing in this universe. I just don't know if they want you to have that feeling. I think in some ways they want to make you go through Sasha Michael's eyes and Michael's perspective and how this must all feel for her, getting dragged from one place to another, making these decisions in fragmented mindscape, so to speak. I think that's kind of what they were going for and what they're going and what the style is. And as we relax a little bit more and more storylines, I wonder if we're going to pull back on that. I wonder if we're going to get some other character perspective episodes, like an episode where the captain's the main character for the episode, where Saru's the main character for the episode. Something like that, where Michael is incapacitated for some reason and can't be. Or is this all going to be the Michael show? And as much as I like Michael, Sasha, I feel like this show is going to be more successful the more characters they get involved. And the more they expand this universe, the more characters we focus on, the better the show is going to be. And I think if you're going to do the Deep Space Nine thing, completely fall into it and don't have one focus character. Expand to many of the characters because they're all very interesting. At the end of the day, though, the show is like other Trek shows, needs a first season to find its footing. I agree with that. I think all the other Trek shows' first seasons were very... Except for TOS. TOS is a different beast. I'd say season 3 of TOS is the worst season. But... in season 2 is probably the best one. But I'd say... Next Generation even needed 2 seasons to get there. And Deep Space Nine needed 2, some would argue 3. It wasn't great until Worf showed up, even though I'd argue season 3 of Deep Space Nine is really good. Voyager probably hit the ground running better than any of the shows if you're into Voyager, in the sense that season 1 was, still really well done. But I feel like people are too... And I know, again, I said this before, I'm somebody that is doing episode or every few episode recaps of this show, and I'm saying people are judging it too specific episode to episode. We're just not in an entertainment landscape where generally, not all, 2 points in the Devin Tracy jar, not all people need to make a decision in the moment. If you give something some time to breathe, you're an idiot, or you're fucking, you're not trying hard enough. It's I love it or I hate it. There's no, this is okay, let me get into this. You either have to love something or you gotta hate it. Especially in this context of all these people that, do reviews or reactions. And I'm one of them. I'm in the vault, but now, everyone, their mother does it, and everyone's mother wants to do it, and everyone's writing reviews, and everyone needs to push, because since everyone's doing it, it's the over-expelled landscape where there's just so many people yelling and screaming, and it's like, watch me, watch me. So you need to make these bold assertions to get eyes on you or something. It's the shittiest thing ever. Listen to me. Or it's not even troll topics in the way it used to be where someone would troll something. It's, no, I want to get a reaction. I want to get responses. I want to get people to... So you need to make these like, this show sucks and it's this and it's that. Otherwise, Because what Joshua says is realistic. It has its good points, it has its bad points. It needs some time to grow and understand what kind of series it is. And not be like, oh, fuck this, not Star Trek, not Star Trek, it's Star Trek, not Star Trek, it's Star Trek, Gene's vision is shitty, blah, blah, blah. Be critical of the show, but come on. The sky isn't fucking falling after one episode. It reminds me of sports coverage now. Television coverage reminds me of, the team won the game today. The team's the greatest team of all time. This team's undefeated. Will never lose. Never lose, I tell ya. Never lose. Team loses their first game. This team sucks. The quarterback should retire. He's the most awful presentator of football I've ever seen in my life. He needs to retire now because his body language shows he's negative. And negativity furthers porn. And his negativity furthers porn. I don't know what I'm saying here, but I know it's bad. Can't you be undecided for a while? No middle ground left in. There is no middle ground anymore. I think it would have slowed and been a little bit more sympathetic. I think it was a mistake to lead with the prologue because it makes Michael instantly unlikable. If they'd started with the third episode and gradually told us the backstory, Michael smashed the black girl's head against the table like Stick smashed Jon Snow against an anvil. Apparently, it's a television logic that it doesn't hurt so much. Yeah, and that's the whole thing where people get knocked out in television. They never... If you're really knocked out in reality, you're probably going to get brain damage. Did you get the impression that Security Woman was talking down to Michael about her Vulcan martial arts? I don't know if she was talking down to her about it. I think it's more of a sense of fear. Because what we know about Vulcans, but maybe it was, because what we know that Vulcans have superior strength to humans, so maybe they don't have a lot of respect for Vulcan martial arts because the only way it works is because they're stronger than them. So she's kind of like being like, you're human, keep your Vulcan martial arts away. Or I think it was a little way of saying that if I met Superman, I'd rag on him. I'd be like, yeah, dude, you can fucking kill me at any time you want. How the fuck's that work? You fucking stupid asshole. You know, I mean, it's just that way when someone's better than you or something, your one way of desensitizing it is by making jokes about it. So I think on some level, it's a little bit of that as well. Like she's not impressed and is more formidable. So I think it's one of the two things. It's saying, listen, you might have Vulcan martial arts training, but you don't have the super Vulcan strength. So dial it back, hun. Or it's saying it's a way of talking down because she's intimidated. And I think sometimes people... Worf does this a lot on the beginning of Deep Space Nine when he starts talking shit to Odo and questioning the way Odo's doing his security job because he's like, I can do the security job better! And all that sort of shit. So I think there's a little element of that too. Of, your big strong Vulcan ways aren't going to work on this ship, see? I don't know why I'm doing that voice a lot today. Listen, see? These Vulcan tests aren't going to work, see? You're an idiot, see? So then we see Burnham later dressed in plain uniform with no badges. Saru greets her at the door and introduces himself as Discovery's first officer. Saru brings Burnham to engineering. Burnham comments on Saru's speech at Captain Giorgio's funeral was beautiful. Burnham struggles with an apology. Saru says that she believes Burnham is dangerous and worth fearing, but that the captain doesn't fear normal things that normal people do. She promises not to make trouble, but Saru makes it clear she does. He'll do a better job at protecting his captain than she does with hers. Really well acted scene by both performers, and I believed it. Very strong. Very fucking strong right there. And let's continue. Burnham enters engineering. She reports to Lieutenant Stamets. She's told in a classified area when she remarks that the Starfleet labs aren't classified. She's told that this is Discovery. This is Sparta. This is... Fuck, dude. Why is this... Sorry, I'm Discovery. I am... Damn it, Jim. I am a fucking... Sorry, I'm like I said, I'm having a lot of computer issues scrolling down. I'm trying to get actors' names. What the fuck's this actor's name? The guy who plays the engineer. Who is the engineer's name? Cadet Tilly. Paul Stamets. There's his name. Anthony Rapp is the actor's name. He's been in a ton. Oh, Beautiful Mind is what I know him. Road Trip is the movie. It's not Road Trip. He plays the dick. He was also in Dazed and Confused. Rent. He's been in tons of shit. I recognize this actor forever. The X-Files, 6 Degrees of Separation, School Ties. School Ties I remember him from as well. I don't remember so much. Oh, he's Tony in Dazed and Confused. Okay, I totally remember him from Dazed and Confused. So the actor that plays the engineer has been in tons of shit. Like, just tons of fucking shit his whole career. Talk Star Trek dirty to me, Phil. Oh, yeah. Hey, Broke. Come and sit on Daddy's lap. Give Star Trek a kiss, girl. Oh, Daddy! So we meet Lieutenant Commander Stamets, who says he's in a classified area. And I think as we learn more about this character, I like his whole story. That he was a scientist that was working on this cutting edge technology that once the war started, Starfleet sort of said, fuck you, you're coming with us. And split him and his partner up on 2 different ships, which eventually leads to that second ship being destroyed in this episode, or destroying itself. And it's a good emotional arc that happens in this episode with him, and I definitely feel it. And so she tries to take a workstation next to Tilly, but she's told that we have assigned ships. Stamets exits the classified area and puts the pod into the containment unit. Burnham and Stamets have a tense introduction where Burnham notices the brushes over some silvery dust off his shoulder. He gives her some lines of code to work on and get busy, and tells her that there's no assigned seats. So Burnham goes over and looks at her redhead friend and is like, listen, I guess you don't want me sitting next to you. It's kind of an awkward office place moment that I really like. Felt very Star Trek-like. So she starts working on the code, and she's working there all night, and she just finds that she finds a guard. Oh, wait. Anyways, she receives an above all top secret message alerting him that Discovery's sister ship. Oh. Sorry, my scrolling is all awful. It's like jumping. I'm trying to scroll down a page, and then every once in a while it will jump like 10 feet or something like that. It's really quite annoying. So Burnham works till everyone's gone. Stamets is gone from the lab, but discusses the joint project with a colleague over a video communicator. He's interrupted, and Burnham brings him the code and points out his mistake. Burnham returns to her quarters and finds Tilly snoring and drooling. She uses a napkin to collect some of Tilly's drool to get through the breath lock on the lab, and she finds a garden of fungus. And I'm not talking about psilocybin. It's just a fungus grass group that looks like they're having sort of something's alive on the ship. So now he meets the captain, or the captain sees an above top secret message alerting him that Discovery's sister ship was destroyed along with all on aboard while performing a black alert maneuver near the Klingon territory. He tells Stamets to assemble a team, including Burnham, to collect the materials related to the project. On the team, Burnham, Tilly, Landry. On the transport, Tilly apologizes to Burnham for being clumsily apologizes to her and tells her she wants to be captain. Stamets and Burnham spar over some science as Burnham tries to get up to speed on what the fuck they're doing. Now, Stamets, in a really interesting monologue, explains that there's no difference between physics and biology, that all physics have biology. Stamets resents Burnham for starting a war that co-opted allowed to now his deceased friend's work to be co-opted by warmongers like the captain. The transport docks on Discovery's sister ship, and Stamets notes the spiral markings on the ship's hull. The ship is dark. They find bodies torn apart and bent on themselves inside out. Tilly finds a correlation with the markings, and they notice a Klingon bat'leth. And Stamets knows about all the devices. It's all over. They discover a dozen dead Klingons, but their bodies aren't mutilated like the Starfleet officers. Their claw marks on the wall torn through reinforced metal. They find a living Klingon who, in a very funny moment, shushes them, and then someone goes, wait, did they? And this is one of those moments where I love the editing in this moment. It was a very quick edit, but I think it really worked. The Klingon goes, shh, and then someone's voice says, did that Klingon just shush you? And then before you know it, a monster comes out, and we get a very alien kind of situation happening. But what I don't like in this was it is very alien, but I don't think we ever should have seen the monster itself. The team loses one soldier, but they make it to the engineering lab, lock the monster out from now. They investigate, and they try to gather the materials they need. They're trapped. They need more time, so Burnham draws the creature's attention by starting to crawl through the Jeffries tube. The creature follows Burnham, but she's reciting Alice in the Wonderland. She drops down from the Starship transport, and they escape. They easily escape. No, they don't easily escape. So later, Burnham reports to the bridge, fuck you, you fucking douchebag computer. Don't do this to me. You know, I'm in a mood. Don't do this to me, computer. Just fucking scroll up. Scroll up. There we go. That's all I want you to do. So Burnham enters the ready room, and the captain invites her to stay on Discovery as she's getting ready to leave. He says not to worry about Starfleet, that had been given permission to win the war by any means necessary. She declines and wonders why the captain wants her there. She believes that he's building a biological weapon that was banned by war treaties, and that he believes that she's a mutineer that will do anything to get out of her imprisonment. Burnham says that she may not hold rank anymore, but she still holds the life of a Starfleet officer. And she also mentions Spock in this scene when she says that, yes, Sarek and I told him about all this stuff. You should tell me and Spock's stories. Then he tells her how she's wrong and transporting them both to Engineer, where she enters the sealed chamber. He pulls out a container of spores that cultivates and releases them into a container where Burnham's there. Then she explains that they're creating a biological fuel. Discovery is behind on the curve, but the sister ship was traveling across the Beta Quadrant on them. They can be used for near instantaneous travel. He shows her by her various planets by activating the spores in her chamber. He believes that this is the key to winning the war, but it is too much, but can lead to too much after that. He makes his pitch again, offering her a chance to end the war she helped start. Now, Saru in the mess hall sees the prison transport leave the Discovery and has a biological reaction to this. His hair goes up. Then Burnham returns to her quarters and tells Tilly that she's going to be there permanently. Tilly is surprised to see an actual book that Burnham has in her collection. It's a copy of Yawn, Alice in Wonderland. Amanda Grayson's... Oh, this is where we mention... Spock gets mentioned. Because Amanda's going to be a character on this show. Amanda gets mentioned, Spock's father, about how used to read it to her on Vulcan, and it taught her about the limits of logic. Later, the captain thanks Landry for beaming their new friend on board. The monster from the sister ship is imprisoned on the Discovery, and the captain kind of stalks it or something like that. It's really kind of a crazy move that lets you understand how fucking insane this captain is. And that basically is our episode of Star Trek Discovery. I very much love this episode. It had me excited through the whole episode. Do I love every single editing choice and every momentary choice that they make? No. Does all of it feel traditional Star Trek to me? No. Do I love the fuck out of what I'm watching so far? Fucking yes. Why am I playing this game? Do I love this? No. Do I want to get this? Yes. Do I want to touch it all over my body? Maybe. I don't know why I'm doing that tactic right now. But maybe all the Curb Your Enthusiasm I've been watching lately. But I absolutely enjoyed this series, and I think it has a very strong direction. I feel like now I have a little bit more of an understanding what the direction of the series is going to be after episode 3. I kind of am on board with some of the things Joshua was saying about maybe this series should have, in retrospect, looking at it, should have started with episode 3 with her on the prison colony, her on the prison ship. If we want to start on her, everything else just cut everything that happens in episode 1 and 2 and proceed that to a flashback. We've already set up that we're going to get flashbacks on this show with Michael, so why not start this off as her being picked up by Discovery? Have the first part of the episode basically be the shuttlecraft in danger and through everything that's going on as we discover this anomaly, and then have halfway through the episode, in the beginning of episode 2, the Discovery comes in. Episode 3 essentially is episode 2, and then we start seeing the flashes from 1 and 2 throughout the series as we discover more about what led Burnham to this point. I think maybe that would have been a little bit more of making us, and some of the people that are so ironclad about hating Michael right away because of what she did to her captain and all of that, instead of seeing that as a mistake and looking at the Vulcanness of it all, it would have been a better way of introducing us to her character, I think, and would have made people a little bit more on top of caring about her going through this, rather than fuck her, she fucked over her captain, I don't like her, which is a reasonable problem with some of the issues with her. So I think Josh was right in that it would have been a better way of doing this. Let's go into the live motherfucking chat, see what people say. Scout, 34 degrees Fahrenheit today in the north, freezing. I really hope they come out and claim the Discovery is some kind of joint project with Starfleet in Section 31 or something. I could absolutely see that happening, Joshua. Section 31 is probably my one strong point that I like that they include Section 31 in the movies, to show you that they've existed for so long, because we've known on Deep Space Nine that we've learned of the existence of Section 31 forever. So I would not be surprised if we see Section 31 introduced in Discovery as well, and that they're a big factor of the captain, or the captain is a member of Section 31 could also be an issue as well. That could be a factor. So who knows? And I do think we're going to see Section 31 on this series. Let's go down. The way they're dropping Easter eggs makes it seem like they're just nodding at old school fans like to acknowledge them. Those 2 Easter eggs, the fact that the Easter eggs really make me think that it's more of a reboot. And the Tribbles, see, again, I disagree with you. I don't think it's a reboot at all. I'm taking them by lip service. I mean, I think the reboot thing is just a way of freeing your mind to enjoy it instead of having so many problems with everything else. I'm not telling you how your fucking mind works. You can tell me to get the fuck out of your head. You don't know shit, Phil. So, I mean, I think for me, if I'm trying to judge it as a reboot, it's saying, yeah, I'm okay. Like, no, it's not a reboot. They're just choosing to ignore certain factors and re-canonize certain things, but it's not a reboot. It's not a reboot. Is a completely new universe. A reboot is the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, the Friday the 13th reboot. It's recreating the events. It's this new universe, the Calvin universe of new people playing it in a new universe. Or they even changed the universe instead of a reboot. It's like it's an event change, so it changed everything. So technically, it's not even a reboot in that sense. So I guess I just don't view it that way. I view it as 10 years before the time of TOS, and it's a series made now, so they have to upgrade some of the tech. But until they prove to me completely, without a shadow of doubt, that the things that happen in this could not lead to the events that I see. Even with the Klingons' look, you could say that this is a halfway point between the genetic virus and what the Klingons are eventually going to look like. So until they completely show me that it isn't a precursor to the Prime timeline, like they really break canon of that, I'm going to continue on the line of this is set 10 years before the time of TOS. And uniforms look different. Aesthetics aren't going to fucking bother me. I saw people sharing, there's a meme out there with Ahura in her tight skirt, and then it shows Michael Burnham. 10 years from now, all female officers are forced to wear miniskirts. Shit like that doesn't bother me, and I think that's piling on. If it makes someone feel better calling it a reboot, watch it with that way. If it's going to make your enjoyment of it and get the fanfare of this go so we get a season 2, I'm just afraid all this fucking shit is going to be like CBS is like, it's too expensive to make this show anyway. We're not enough to deal with this crap. Fuck you, Star Trek fans. You've been begging us to do a show for years. We did a show. You don't fucking like it, and you're complaining about X, Y, and Z about this fucking shit. Fuck you. This show's costing us more than we're making. Peace out, guys. We're done. And with Orville, too, Fox cancels shit easily. We could be sitting next year at this time talking about, remember that time when we were so lucky that we had 2 awesome Star Trek series on and no one could fucking enjoy it because everyone had to fucking complain? So the networks just say, no money to be made, people are complaining, fuck this, done. And I could totally see that happening with Discovery. CBS isn't in love with Trek anyway. They hate it. They hate it. The way they've treated Star Trek since they've owned it proved to me that they don't understand the property and they dislike it. So the fact that they did this is a big step for me. And it's the why I ultimately decided to purchase the CBS All Access, even though I think it's fucking bullshit and I think that they're fucking holding me up by gunpoint to make me purchase it. I want CBS to know that Star Trek can be a marketable, cool property, because the movies came out and the movies started to do worse because Star Trek fans weren't going to see them, and there were so many other action movies that gave things at a higher level for people to watch. So it's like, they can't get, people complain that the movies weren't Trek enough, so they hired, people to work on the third movie, Beyond, to have people write it in a more Star Trek-y kind of way, and people still complained about it, and I still didn't like it, and now they're doing this, and people are complaining about it on Access, and it's not Trek enough, and it's this, and that. Like, I know, from what I know about CBS, at one point, eventually, if people aren't liking this, and they aren't getting the right numbers, they're just going to be like, fuck you guys. Screw you guys. We're going to put this in mothballs for the next 20 years again. And because that's what they'll do. And so I'm not pretending to like it or fake liking it or some stuff. I'm just not going to get into the echo chamber of hate for it. And I'll complain about some of the problems of it, but it's just, come on, guys. Come on. You've wanted Trek for a while. Your Trek should be on TV. Enjoy this, okay? And fucking make CBS know that they should keep making fucking Star Trek. I want this to be a success. Anyways, No, I think you're totally right. That's how I'm framing it. I think part of it is because they went out of their way to link the Calvin timeline to Prime timeline in the comic books, and with having Geordi be the one that designed the ship that had that Spock used to travel back in time to meet Nero. And I go a step further that in the Star Trek video game, they try to connect the movies in the video game, the movie and the Prime, the Calvin universe so much. I hope that's not what they're trying to do with this situation too, and I hope they just make this legitimately like they're saying that this is set in the Prime timeline, and that all this stuff that they're setting up is all going to have explanations for why it's set up the way it does. In the comics and the books elaborate on what was covered. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There's a comic book series that shows that Geordi was the one that designed it. Data became captain of the Enterprise. Like, all this sort of shit happened. Then they sent Spock back. And then Nero spent X amount of years in the Klingon prison after he did that stuff, which caused him to become all crazy. And that's what happened with all of this. Feel ya, but what about the fact that these Klingons are apparently all 24 houses, not just abandoned and do not just abandon their dead? I agree with that. The Klingon stuff, I have no super defense of, except for to think that these are more of a primitive Klingon race that haven't quite developed all the rules. They're the midpoint between like the Kalis and the Klingons that we know. So the houses are still coming together and figuring out all the dogmatic bullshit that goes with the Klingon life that we learn about. We're at the point where like Galron and Kiptek or whatever the guy we meet in, I forget his name, in the first season of Next Generation, that we see the Klingon High Council, or some of the stuff that we see in Deep Space Nine, is so many years and so many generations after this time period that everything can get warped. And you look at technology and you look at the way life works, and that even in 10, 15 years in our own life, you see how certain things work, and things go from memory to lore to the way that people correct their history. And this goes to something I'm going to be talking about in the Orville episode, and I think something the Orville episode explored very well, how something can become a reality early on that, oh, this is our ship, and this is a biosphere that we have in the ship. We're stuck here, yada, yada. But as time goes on, it turns into, this is our world, these are our gods. So potentially maybe shit just happened in the Klingon Empire, that everything that happened after this war just progressed. That being said, it's tough thinking that everything changes in 10 years, because we meet the Klingons 10 years after in TOS, and that's where it gets hinky. So 10 years and then 20 years. So perhaps a lot happens in 10 years and the Klingons are wiped out in the situation, and then somebody recreates it in his name. Somebody, the next chancellor after this war, completely within the Klingon Empire recanonizes Klingon history to what he thinks the Klingon Empire should be. And then we just never hear that as the people like Kor and all those dudes that rise up. I don't know. I'm fansplaining again. I'm doing it. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that can't be ignored for anyone moderately familiar with expanded universe and media that they sold for decades. Supposedly, Nicholas Meyer is working on a replacement show, depending on the subscription numbers, that they're going to call this an anthology season or another World Series and make it more canon. I would love to see something like that too. And I think what they're doing on this show, more than anything, is they're trying to tell a good story, and they're not trying to ignore canon completely, but they're also being very, very flexible with it. And that's fine for me, as long as they give me a good television experience. I think I've been so robbed of good Trek on TV for me since DS9 and a few select episodes of Voyager and Enterprise. I feel like Voyager and Enterprise didn't have great seasons. They had great episodes. And I think both those shows do have great episodes. And even Enterprise in their final couple of seasons, where I know people love it, but it's love it in the way that it was better than Enterprise before. They still had no charismatic characters on that show for me, unless they brought in old Trek people, like when Weyoun showed up, or when Data showed up, or when fucking so many other people showed up on Enterprise. I think that this and Orville are the first great Star Trek that we've had since Deep Space Nine for me. So that being said, I think Phil's totally right in calling me out on my defense mechanism of geek stuff. I'm just labeling it a reboot. I think we're both right, Joshua. I think as we're having this, I think Joshua represents a certain feel that Star Trek fans are having right now, but I think you're being a lot more realistic and open-minded about this than some are. I think if you want to see the worst cesspool of hate right now, go to the Star Trek Facebook group right now and watch about like everything that's going back and forth in that group with everybody. And this is what I'm talking when I say my whole bitch at the beginning of this podcast was about that. And maybe I shouldn't even look at it, but I'm like dwelling too much time in that group, and there's just so much like red hot rage for this show or red hot rage for Orville, and it bothers me. But as I'm transitioning into talking about Orville, the episode 4, If the Stars Should Appear, which is another great episode of Orville. Orville gives you that kind of fun, more comedic, lighthearted Star Trek feel, while again not taking itself ridiculously. Anyone who points out points of this episode goes, oh, it's too not serious. Fuck you too. Like, Orville's a funny show that's not funny in the way Family Guy is funny. It's not. And it's not gonna, and if you're going in there trying to find all the Seth-isms in the way that I was in the first episode, I'm gonna be sorely surprised in how good I think this show actually is and how funny it can be. Now, Orville is gonna stand up and, has it made its premise sort of like never forget the Orville's crew carries families with it, domestic issues. Yeah, it's similar to Next Generation, where we see just tons of families and all of that. So this episode of Orville deals with, there's also funny stuff with the Rocky Road ice cream. We get somewhat of a continuation from our last episode where our couple from the last episode are still fighting, and I love that how they Clayton and Bortus have a pretty stereotypical squabble, and then I love eating the Rocky Road ice cream. Reminded me very much of a Deanna Troi kind of moment. And there's just so much love for Star Trek in Orville, because sometimes with a spoof or with a talking down, it almost can come off as talking down about the show, but not on Orville. Orville comes off as just a show that loves the source material that it's talking about. It loves Star Trek. It understands Star Trek in a way that I think other things that might try to spoof something don't. And I think Seth MacFarlane is doing something special here with Orville, I think, in my mind. It's a way of keeping an era alive. And I don't have a problem with nostalgia when you're trying to create something new within nostalgia. And I think more than a spoof show, as some often and myself like to quickly judge Orville in some things in other shows like this, I think what Orville really is, it's a, pardon the pun, the Star Trekian pun, a stitch in time. It's a look into that time period of Star Trek with modern sensibilities, with a modern sense of humor, with a wink and a nod and a giggle, because it does take a look at it. But ultimately, every time I'm watching this, I feel like I'm watching a lost episode of Next Generation. I do. It feels that way to me. It feels totally like fucking Next Generation to me, almost in every possible way. This episode as well, with the way they found the ship, the biosphere and the ship, discovering this alien race, interacting with the alien race and learning all about it and touching it, having some problems, getting shot by it. We get Teabag from Prison Break that shows up in this episode too. And then this huge discovery of the biodome that gets let open, and then we see the sky and everyone learns about, like, just the whole tale in this story was so fucking 90s Trek. I'm not going to say it's Star Trek and that Discovery isn't Star Trek. Star Trek is a many different things. It's the original 60s television show that can easily get made fun of on something like Futurama or Kevin Pollak doing the Shatner impression. It's the Star Trek movies that were these romanticized versions of the original series, and in an era where Shatner and George Takei and Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley and Nichelle Nichols and Walter and fucking, did I forget somebody? That whole cast are all stars, are fucking icons. Excuse me. And those movies really create an identity of Star Trek that was going to carry through the 90s age. Then we get Next Generation, which you could say redefines what Star Trek is and creates this different kind of way that Star Trek is. This more, and I know TOS did this too, but even a more organized militaristic sense of Starfleet, of a science group or something, or excuse me, less militaristic and more of a science-oriented look of what the Federation is. explorers, discoverers. When we were on TOS, it was more you're at war. You are Discovery, but you are, no pun intended, you are like still in the heart of the Cold War of the Klingons. That really ends in Star Trek 6 and perfectly leads into what we get in Next Generation. Then we go into Next Generation, which leads and has all what Next Generation is about. Eventually into Deep Space Nine, which sees that get challenged when what happens when you face a real enemy inside this world, and you get more of a central focus show on a central location and what everything happens around that. Also more of exploration of other alien cultures. Then you go to Voyager, which kind of dials back to more of that 90s Star Trek feel of Next Generation with a little bit more focused on wonder and discovery. Then you get into the Next Generation movies, which don't really know what the fuck they are. And because of that, you do Enterprise, which I think as well kind of doesn't really have a complete identity within itself, and that caused a little bit of a problem with it as well. So I think right now, what you're looking with Discovery's trying to take what some of the movies did, what Deep Space Nine did, what the end of Enterprise did, and combine it into and create something new. What Orville's doing is having a new look on an old kind of Star Trek. And both are fucking amazing. And I'm so lucky as a Star Trek fan, I can enjoy both. And if you're not enjoying both because you feel like you have to choose one, or you feel like you hate the concept of there being a spoof series and you just can't take this shit serious because I fucking hate Family Guy, you're missing out. And if you're not watching Discovery because fuck CBS All Access and fuck a show that has characters arguing and all that shit, you're missing out too. So I think Mercer's a great captain. I like him on this show now. I like how subtle he is. I like how he's holding back. I like Clyden. I like the alien creature that's above all else that we're learning more about. I love Isaac. Fucking love Isaac. And I'm still not convinced it's not Brent Spiner's voice doing Isaac. I know it's not, but this is just a really good episode. It's hard to... I don't feel like breaking this down point for point like I bring out the other episode. But we meet a big bad with Hammerlock, who is our bad guy in this episode. But it's a very, very focused episode of Star Trek. I was to say Star Trek Next Generation, where we get everything gets wrapped up. People on the ship have a side mission while the OA team gets trapped on a planet. We get a lot more Cassidy Yates in this episode and a little bit more Norm Macdonald. I feel like it wasn't quite as good for me as episodes 2 and 3 were, but wasn't as bad as 1. If I was ranking the Orville episodes so far for my interest, it would be 2, 3, 4, 1. And I feel like it's going to be that way with Orville. There's some episodes that are going to connect with some people, not connect with other people. If I have any little problem with this episode, is it reminded me a little bit too much of some other Star Trek Next Generation stuff. I feel like it didn't have its own unique voice at times. But that's not to say it wasn't great. I thought it was funny, like the direction that's going. You see some continuation of long-form story as well mixed in there. But basically, it's going to be episodic. I love it. I love both shows. I'm enjoying them. They're not without their problems, without their warts. They exist. We pointed them out here today. But it's okay to hate on these shows. Just question the reasons why you're hating them. That's the only thing I'll say. I'm not degrading anyone that wants to say I fucking hate a show. You don't have to like what I like, even if you're a Star Trek fan. But I feel like some people are just trying to hate on the show to hate. Are just trying to hate on the show because they don't like it and can't accept that they don't like it and just don't want to like it, so they have to call it shit. They can't have a middling opinion about anything. As I said earlier, everyone needs to either hate something or like something. They can't explain that it's okay and needs time to develop. And I think both series need time to develop. I think Discovery's probably a little bit more developed because of all the time they spent to it. But I think both shows, talk to me at the end of these seasons. If these shits hold up. And then even more so, talk to me at the end of season 2. Like, please give these shows a little room to grow and be themselves. That's all I'm saying as to Star Trek fans out there, because I've been a fan since the fucking 80s. I've been a fan of Star Trek since I can remember, okay? So let's not shoot ourselves in the foot again here, Star Trek fans, okay? Let's not kill ourselves here. And let's actually try to give these shows a shot before we fucking hate them. And if you're telling me after 3 or 4 episodes, this is fucking shit, It's fucking shit and it'll never be shit. I'm sorry that you have that fucking Miss Cleo crystal ball. Oh, Miss Cleo knows the shows are gonna be shit. Congratulations, you bunch of Mrs. fucking Cleos. You're way smarter than me, dudes. So on that note, have I been eaten sandwich? Better Next Generation movie. The best Next Generation movie was First Contact. I definitely like that. I'd rather watch Iron Fist than Orville, says Broke. Broke, how could you say that? New Discovery is greater than Iron Fist. Inhumans, Orville. You've been eating too many sandwiches. Cersei cheers. I think it's somewhat hard to dismiss suspicion that Fox maybe purposely marketed Orville in order to draw in other Seth MacFarlane audience members. I think that was exactly why. And I think it's a shame. I think I feel bad for some of the Seth MacFarlane fans that might be tuning in this, expecting to see this be a little bit more humorous than it is, where it's something that actually makes some points and takes itself serious. And I think it's wonderful to me that Seth has this gear in him. It makes me think more that he was just trying to money grab what he knows people will buy. That sort of shit that he does, that he can just like regurgitate, over and over again. He's like, oh, okay, people like that. I want to make money doing that. Let me just keep doing that. And this seems more like a passion project to him. I mean, I might be projecting there a little bit, but it seems like he's really trying something serious here. That's why I hope he gets success of it, beyond the fact that I enjoy the show. I want to see him, just as a content creator, know that he doesn't have to keep remaking Family Guy every single time to make people appreciate what he does. Because I do think he has another gear that I wasn't sure he had before this show. And I just mean as a show creator, as an actor, as a performer. Please don't judge what Fox does to this show on whether you should do more projects like this. And not that you're fucking watching this, but ultimately I do think he has a talent to do something better than Family Guy. And I know there are people out there that like Family Guy, or like Ted, or like the Ways to the West, and like American Dad, or like the Cleveland Show when it was on. I don't. And I don't like that sense of humor necessarily. I like the first season of Family Guy, and I think some of the jokes in Ted work because they're first season of Family Guy jokes. But in general, I don't like his sense of humor at all. And I don't like him as an actor at all. And I'm loving Orville because it's not that. And it's him doing something different. And it shows me that he has a lot of fucking talent. And I hope whether Orville succeeds or not, I hope he explores that other quality that he has about his talent. Let's be honest, while we're only watching Orville because of Phil and Halston Sage. Thank you. Is that another guy that reviews them? After this episode, I mean, this was a solid science fiction with a touch of humor. Broke, I think you're way off. I don't think you're the target audience for this show. I think, were you a fan of Star Trek The Next Generation? Were you a fan of old school Star Trek? Or are you watching this show somewhat naked to Star Trek history? I think Orville is a show that you can't be just a fan of sci-fi in general, and you can't necessarily be a fan of Seth MacFarlane's shit. I think you need to be a fan of the old school Star Trek The Next Generation and understand really what he's doing with this, reviving that sense, that wonder with the music, with the tone, with the way it all looks. And I think to just simply dismiss Orville like that because that it's better than that Iron Fist is better, or you'd rather watch Iron Fist, I think that's horrible, Broke. And I think you don't like Orville because, it's not your show. It's not a show for you. So I appreciate the way you feel, but come on. You watch Star Trek movies, but not Next Generation, right? Have you watched all 7 seasons of Star Trek Next Generation, all 7 seasons of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and all 7 seasons of Star Trek Voyager? That's who this show is for. I'm a fan of half of Seth's shits. Luckily, Seth has so many friends now. They cameo and they lined up Orville really impressive. Like Charlize Theron, I can't wait to see her in that. After this episode, I think this was solid science fiction with a sense of humor. And I appreciate that you're only watching Orville to watch me review it. But if that's the only reason, I wouldn't watch it. Don't hate watch it. Don't do that. Don't do that, because it is a show that's meant for a certain demographic of people. And I think people that have watched 26 seasons of Star Trek on 29 seasons of Star Trek on television. I think that's what Orville's for. The 3 seasons of TOS, the 7 seasons are each of the main 3 seasons, and the 5... Oh, wait, how many seasons of Enterprise were there? I'm sorry. I'm misjudging. I think I added 2 extra seasons of Enterprise. But I think it's for people that have watched all those seasons and love Star Trek, like really embrace it and can feel the love that everyone working on that show have for Trek history and for the primetime canon timeline. I think that's why some people are making this a war between Discovery and Orville, because Orville has such an affinity and such a warm feeling about and I keep calling it 90s Trek, even though I'm stretching it to the 60s and stretching it up to even early 2000s. But it has such a love for that Star Trek, and it celebrates it almost, that it's hard for the people that love that show not to look at Discovery as maybe a punch in the face, because to them it's something completely different and doesn't do this and is ignoring continuity stuff with some of the tech and shit. So I get it, whereas Seth's not doing that. It's giving you 90s Trek. Like, they're basically taking everything that works on the Next Generation ships. They're bringing every technology over to it. I'm just trolling Halston Sage's sexy alien-ass makeup. Oh, okay. No, you don't have to shut up, Broke. I just think you're not the target audience for that. You can hate on this show all you want, but like saying things like, you'd rather watch Iron Fist, please don't watch this show then. I know how much you hate Iron Fist. If you're hating this that much, or you're watching it because of the hot alien creature, which she is. I think she's fucking beautiful as shit, dude. I think she's up there ranking now with T'Pol and Dax for me, and 7 of 9 as some of the hottest Star Trek girls ever. But you can watch stills of her later. Don't forget about the animated series, Phil. Oh yeah, I can't forget about the animated series, which definitely brings us some Star Trek canon, like Captain Kirk's middle name and some of Spock's upbringing. Scout says, I agree with you, Phil. Seth is making Orville because he really loves Trek and wants a semi-serious show about it. Did you notice how they completely changed Halston Sage's eyebrows after the pilot? I'd have to rewatch that to see it, but I did not quite notice that, and I will have to go back and watch that. She looked great in this last episode, though. Maybe that's me starting to notice her a little bit more. So on that note, I think now's about time to start to wrap this up. Just have to thank everyone that joined me for this afternoon for this live stream to talk about these 2 episodes. She had like a forehead prosthetic. They're taking it down a little bit to make her look a little bit nicer. They're like, oh, we got a pretty girl here. Let's make her look even prettier. People seem to like her. Probably, maybe it was partly that she was uncomfortable in the makeup and they had to sort of downgrade it a little bit to make her feel like she could emote a little bit more in it. Sometimes they'll do quick changes like that from a pilot to the main series, where they do something specifically for a pilot and they don't like how it looks, or the actor really complains about the way that they make her feel. Same thing happened on the TOS series with Spock. His original ears are a lot different than the ears he eventually wore. In fact, he had a condition to make his own ears because the one that they did for the original series didn't look right and didn't fit right. So he had to go take his own initiative to talk to the props person and make the effort to find ears that actually worked for him. So when they redid it, they did the second pilot, and furthering after that, Spock made his way of recreating the Vulcans in the way that he thought they should look with the ears. Alara is quite cute indeed. Also, it's a good to see that she isn't invulnerable. Yeah, I like that too, that she actually got shot, because when she first got shot, I said to Stephanie, oh, she's going to be fine, no worries. And I like how they actually made her, it created a sense of tension, something I did not think they could do on Orville. It really made me care about her and worry about her in that moment. I didn't think they were going to kill her, but at least filled me with that sort of sense right there. Perfect. So on that note, let's start to wrap things up. And Broke, I didn't mean to be like harsh about like that. Don't rag on this show. Please rag on this show all you want. But don't, I guess all I'm saying is if people are, I'm not necessarily a big fan of the hate watch. I do hate watch stuff sometimes, but tuning into a series every week just to watch it because you don't like it, it's tough. And I'm not picking on Broke. I know a lot of people that do that. I'm amazed at people that do that for Discovery right now. Maybe because they already bought the CBS All Access and now they're forced to watch it, so they hate watching it every week. But I'm not a big fan of hate watching. I'm one of those people that if I don't like something, I'm just going to stop watching it. Or especially I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to put myself through the torture of it, no matter what. And people who say, oh, you watch The Walking Dead. I don't hate The Walking Dead. I rag on The Walking Dead, but I don't hate it. Shows that I hated that I stopped talking about, you can see on this channel very easily. I did like maybe one review of it, and then I just stopped talking about it. Like something like Bastard Executioner or something. I'm like, I can't talk about the show. It fucking sucks. So, I mean, ultimately, that's my thing with people that aren't liking Orville or aren't liking Discovery. I guess my final thing to you guys. And Broke, you're just getting kind of wrapped up on this because of the Star Trek war that's going on right now. So, there will be casualties. Stop watching it. And stop it. Stop it. Stop. You think you're space shit? You think you're space shit? You shit. Think again, motherfucker. This podcast is sponsored by Negan in Space. Hickory dickory dock, you sci-fi fucks are sucking my cock. Or Andrew Dice Clay. But everyone, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I'll be back very soon to talk some more bullshit. This week, there may not be a Friday stream. I don't know yet. I have some other commitments on Friday, and I'm going to be doing a Saturday night stream. But I'll try to be on at least one more time this week for something random, maybe another top list. Maybe it's time to get back to some Game of Thrones. I'm not sure what exactly I'm going to be talking about this week, but I will be back again sometime this week. But if not, if some shit ends up coming up, we'll be on Saturday evening, October 7th, October 7th, for a live music trivia competition between my three guests that I'm going to be having on. Big Al, Krega, and Big Daddy Matt will all be having the Issues program champion of music for 2017 music trivia. So if you guys are into that sort of thing, please try to tune in. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you think about Star Trek and Orville, how you were feeling about both these series. Are you excited? Are you not? Which one are you feeling more? Do you think I'm way off base with my perspective and the way I'm feeling about these two series and about the problems that people are having and having to pick one or the other, all my bitching and moaning that I've done through this whole podcast? Is that bothering you? Do you like me in this kind of tone in this podcast? Because you know what's wrong with me today? I haven't eaten a fucking sandwich. This is me not eating a fucking sandwich. I'm too hyped up. And I'm aggressive. I'm a little bit more aggressive than normal. And I also want to thank people, the folks that joined us last night to talk about the Curb Your Enthusiasm premiere. People are into Curb and didn't know. Walking David and I went live last night talking about the Curb Your Enthusiasm premiere. We will not be going live after every episode, but we did go live after the premiere, and we will be talking about every episode about Curb Your Enthusiasm. So please subscribe and join the fun, and please share the channel with a friend. We need even more subs. We need all of you guys to go out there and help push the channel and help us fucking grow. Love you, Josh. Yeah, Joe, the only show I tune in to hate watch is Fear the Walking Dead. Hate watch. Gotham mini issue stream. I'll talk about Gotham right now. I am halfway through the last season of Gotham. The whole Mad Hatter storyline's over with right now. I just dealt with the outcome of the Penguin and the Riddler's problems that led up. And now I'm dealing with the Penguin kind of recreating his group right now with Mr. Freeze. And I'm generally enjoying the show from a silly standpoint. I like the Bruce and Alfred stuff more than anything else as that progresses. I hate the owl shit that's going on right now. I think that's fucking lame and stupid, or at least it looks lame and stupid. I think Gotham is a good hodgepodge of a show that there's enough in there for me to really like, and I think there's some points that are really, really awesome and fun, and I think it's a well-produced program. But I do think some of the storylines are duds, and I think at times the casting is off, and I think they pick some random people some of the people that they pick to play some of the villains don't always work great. But I think what works great about the show is Gordon, Bullock, Bruce, and Alfred. And I think everything else fluctuates. I actually really like the kid that they have play the Joker. I know him from Shameless. He plays Eon in Shameless, and Jerome. I generally like the Jerome stuff, and I generally like some random villains here and there. But I think some parts of Gotham aren't perfect, and they cause some serious problems for me to love the show. But I do like it. And I have some serious problems with some issues that happen. I'm trying not to be quite as specific as I can to protect some spoilery type stuff, and I also I'm not caught up. But I do think the more they spend time on Bruce and Alfred, the better the show is going to be. And that doesn't mean I don't like, what I also like about the show is I feel like next to The Wire, and I know I'm comparing Gotham to The Wire. It's the best show besides that to have a show about a city. It isn't just about an individual character or Gordon or Bruce or whatever. No one's the main character. If anyone is, it's Gordon. But ultimately, the show is about the city. And I think that aspect of the show is the best aspect of it. It doesn't focus on one thing. I'm saying I like the Bruce and Alfred stuff the best. That's not to say that they shouldn't focus on the other things. It's just, and some people might find enjoyment in things I don't find enjoyment in. I like how it opens up the universe and we get a whole overview of the whole city. And we really do get that. Is it great? No. Is it good? Yeah, I enjoy it. It's fun. It's a show that is it must-see watching for me? No, but I do think it will continuously have potential to have good stories and good arcs. And I think Gotham is a show of half a season arcs that are really good and really bad. And it kind of goes back and forth. So I will continue watching Gotham until it's off the air. I like it better than Legends of Tomorrow. I like it better than a lot of the Marvel shows that exist out there for my interest on ABC. I never really liked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I never really liked Agent Carter. All those shows, I could never get on board with them. And I know they have their fans. I don't like it as much as Arrow or Flash. I do like it better than Supergirl. So if I'm making my ranking of on-television show DC Universe shows, I would probably go Flash, Arrow, Gotham, Legends, as I pick my nose, Legends, and Supergirl. Joshua, yes, Mad Hatter is shit. I'm like 31 days with no sandwiches. I feel you. Eat one, damn it. I always get kind of good trying not to spoil it. Oh my God, Joshua, I'd die. Jerome is fucking epic. Fuck Lee. Jim, get that dick back in Barbara. I'll say it as Broke said it. Jim, get back in that Barbara dick. The thing with Gotham is they have so many overworld stories and reboots in the comics that's easy to go with this new interpretation. And I guess that's the thing, too. And I say this a lot. When I don't like Gotham the most is when I start going, what the fuck? Why is like that's a Batman thing. Why is Jim doing that? This shouldn't happen yet. Bruce is too young, or when I start doing that, it's a problem. But comics have done so many alternate universe perspectives that you're right, Josh, that unlike something like Star Trek that's just been so ironclad to the Prime universe, or now the Calvin universe is the first offshoot of it. Yeah, there's some comic book series where you see like Star Trek meets the X-Men or something like that. I've actually seen that or whatever. But for the most part, or Star Trek meets Doctor Who or whatever, ultimately Star Trek still sticks within its own world. With Gotham and all the TV universes of these comic book characters, it's easier to just say, oh, this is... And Flash has done it even greater in the sense of spelling that out to, what's Gotham, Earth 7 or something? Like, who knows? It's just a different Earth. And the comic book universes have done that exceptionally well to have a place open. When people start complaining about, oh, Batman, this isn't what would happen in the Batman universe, my response is always, this isn't the Batman universe you know. What is the Batman universe to me? My universe is the Batman animated series. To me, everything else is not that universe. I watch the Nolan movies that I love, two-thirds of them I love, and I go, yeah, this is great, but this isn't my Batman. My Batman is Bruce Timm's Batman. That's the universe. That's the canon I subscribe to. Some people, it's the Michael Keaton movies. Some people, it's it's the Joel Schumacher movies. But I'm sure there's somebody out there. But to me, like I said, Batman is always going to be the animated series. And everything else is going to be, oh, okay, this isn't quite the animated series. Jerome's basically doing a Mark Hamill voice. Or the actor that plays Jerome is basically doing a Mark Hamill voice. So I don't mind that much with Gotham. For me, when it's bad is when they have certain actors on it that are just not taking the material seriously or being a little bit too over the top, and it comes off as the 1960s Batman show a little bit. And I think Fish Mooney comes off a little bit like that sometimes when she was on the show. A little bang, pow, pop. And a little like over the top, like, I'm on a superhero show. Let me overact. And I think the Mad Hatter's like that a little bit too, to a certain extent. There's a fine line between eating scenery in a good way and eating scenery in a bad way. And I think sometimes when you're on a show like Gotham that engulfs into the Batman mythos and tries to touch on every Batman world, you get some people that aren't sure the tone of the series, and they do it in a very over-the-top way, which I don't think clashes with some of the serious nature of the show that they have. Oh, Barbara's fucking, yeah, holy shit. Man, Supergirl, you can binge it when cleaning the house. Arrow got better in season 5. Arrow, the first 2 seasons are really exceptional. Then there was a mid-period in Arrow with Team Arrow that sucked, but I agree, the most recent season of Arrow was back a little bit better. There was a few episodes that were exceptionally well. I'd say Arrow's almost to the point now where a season isn't good, episodes are really good, but when it's good, I think Arrow really works well. Less focus on the relationship aspects of Felicia and Oliver and all that stuff. Felicity and Oliver, and more focus on the grittiness of Oliver dealing with whether he pushes it to death or not, I think works better. And I think Flash is the correct amount of cheese that the Flash universe should be, so it works really well in the converse of what they're trying to do. Legends and Supergirl, I don't like either show. That's why they're the bottoms of my list, but I will watch Legends occasionally. But I didn't finish season 2, and I have no urgency to. What I like about that show is Snart and the Fire Guy. I don't really like much else about it, so it kind of keeps me away from caring too much about the show itself. But, I mean, I think the CW universe in general is all right, and I think Gotham is all right, too. I think they're fine network or sub-network television programs. It's nothing like, if you're trying to compare it to stuff like Game of Thrones or Better Call Saul or whatever, like these deep shows that are multi-layered and really well worked out, I think it's just not the same show. And it's not to go to like what Broke was complaining about Star Trek. You're not the audience for it. You know, if you're expecting something so deep in a superhero thing, watch The Dark Knight, watch Logan, watch Daredevil, watch Jessica Jones. They give much more deep, serious take on a superhero genre story and a graphic novel sort of take on it. You're getting something different with Gotham and the CW shows. You're getting a more homogenized version of it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Enjoy it. You know, if you're not like, I love things, but I love ragging on things I love. That's not to say I won't look at the CW shows and say they're too plagued with teen drama, so they put all that shit in the superhero shows, and it fucking makes me roll my eyes. Every Felicity or what's fucking Barry's girlfriend's name there, Iris. Like too much Iris or Felicity shit mixed in there because CW does love stories. So CW, make more Riverdale shows. So you can get that shit out and make more. Or does CW have a rule? You have to do one time a season where a couple gets into a fight because they don't tell each other the truth. Seriously, every problem on every CW show revolves around, listen, audience, I have a problem and I can't tell Broke. If you tell Broke this problem, Broke and I's relationship will die. So don't tell Broke that I really hate Cersei and I want to see Jamie kill her. Don't tell him that. Shh. I actually don't hate Cersei. I'm just using it as an example. I couldn't think of anything else to say to you to make you hate me. But ultimately, it's a secret like that someone ends up breaking the secret, and it's this thing that a character should tell a character. Every piece of conflict is always the same piece of conflict on a CW show. And it's always, I can't tell that person. I have to tell that person. How will that person react? So they're not without their warts and their problems. Anyways, Phil, what about Supergirl? Like herself, like the actress that plays Supergirl? I don't like Supergirl at all. Part of the problem is I watched the first season on Channel 5. I never watched season 2. I like the character. I like the actress that plays Supergirl. I think she does a really good job, and I like some of the side characters on it. The Ally McBeal of everything fucking took me out of it in season 1, and I understand she's probably not on season 2, but she was so bad in season 1 that I just can't get aboard of the show. I don't like how it looks. I don't like how it feels. I don't like how the Glee-ness of it all. I don't like how she starred in Glee. I don't know. I can't get into Supergirl. I think it's bad. I think it's bad. Gotham takes a bit, but eventually it strikes balance between ultra-violence and campy. Am I the only person, Brooks, am I the only person that likes Fish Mooney? I like the actress. I think she's really good in some stuff. I think she was trying something with Fish Mooney that doesn't work. She was trying to do an Eartha Kitt kind of homage, and I feel like it fell short. And I feel like she comes off as doing something at half measure or a cheesy sort of caricature of what she could have done with that character. And then sometimes she flips it and does this very serious talk. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of problems with Fish Mooney. My super friends. But on that note, I could keep talking. But on that note, I'm going to go, everybody. Have a good night before I end up ranting and raving about some more. But I hope you enjoyed this discussion and a little bit of extra superhero show discussion. I will definitely be talking more about those shows as the year goes on. I might eventually do kind of like a weekly superhero roundup show where I talk about Gotham towards the end of a week, or maybe that will turn into our Friday afternoon show since it'll be at the end of the week with everything. And I always look for something to do on those Fridays. Maybe occasionally, not every Friday, but occasionally on Fridays, that will be that show where I will kind of talk about Gotham, Flash, and Arrow and stuff like that as a superhero Friday or something. But anyways, guys, I will talk to you all next time. Be back very soon. Later. my symbol. Broke my fucking symbol, motherfucking chat. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you next time.